bringing the people behind our food to life.
Today we're going to have a fish fry. We're cooking catfish. Catfish is very plentiful. It's cheap. It's easy to find at most grocery stores. And it tastes really good too. We're going to take the catfish, marinate it in hot sauce and eggs, and then we'll whip up some hush puppies to go along with it and fry it all up. The easiest way to do this is to take the catfish, cut it into smaller portions first. You can do larger portions if you want, but this is a little bit easier to handle, this size. You're a little bit less likely to burn it too. Like to get pretty good little portions there. Most catfish that you'll find in the stores these days is going to be farm-raised catfish. It has a little bit different flavor than catfish in the old days because it used to have a real muddy, murky flavor. This will have a lot sweeter, milder flavor. What I have is about a half cup of hot sauce. You can use any type of southern hot sauce. I wouldn't go with the Mexican or an Asian style unless you wanted to go with that style of food. The vinegar and the cayenne and the sauce just kind of give it a little backup flavor underneath of the cornmeal that we're going to put on later. A couple eggs. And you're just going to take that and mix it up. Another thing with catfish, depending on where you go, who's making it, there's hundreds of different ways to do this. The most simple ways are they would just take the catfish, season it, roll it in simple cornmeal and go ahead and fry it like that. Some people will do more of a batter type. And this one I like to do, it's kind of in between. A little bit of eggs, hot sauce, cornmeal. It gives you a little bit thicker crust, makes it a little bit more crunchy. And I just like the flavor a lot better that way. Okay. Once you have this mixed, it can just sit aside for a while, refrigerate it while you're working on your coating and while you're making your hush puppies. So now we're going to make the hush puppies. Hush puppies are a traditional cornmeal fritter served with seafood, especially catfish. So what I have here is cornmeal and flour. And you want a pretty fine cornmeal, don't get something very coarse. This is the finest one I could find. And flour. To that, you're going to add your salt, baking powder, and baking soda. You can take and mix that together a little bit. And there's lots of different recipes for this. Some of them have more flour, some of them have more cornmeal. They're all, very personalized depending on who is making it. With this one, we're going to grate some onion into it. I like to grate the onion for this because it gets some of the onion juice out into the batter. You can certainly just dice it or mince it up if you want. Let's see what we got. Yep, that's about right. So that should be pretty close to a third cup there. Yeah, that looks about right. So that can go right into your dry. From there, you can add your jalapenos, just minced up, diced real small. You'll also want a little bit of shortening of some sort. I'm using bacon grease today. You could use butter, oil, whatever you like, really. An egg. And buttermilk. You'll want to mix it up fairly well, but don't spend too much time trying to beat the batter. If you over mix it, you'll end up getting tougher, more heavy, leaden fritters rather than something light and fluffy. And then you can just set that aside until after the catfish is fried. Now we're going to make the breading for the catfish. I'm going to use flour, cornmeal, use a fine cornmeal, paprika, salt, pepper, garlic powder, celery seed, and some cayenne. You basically just want to mix this around until you get it well combined. And when you make your coating for your catfish, you want to, again, make sure you're picking out a cornmeal that's more fine. If you get one that's really coarse, you're going to have big pieces of burnt cornmeal floating around in your oil, and it's not good. Once this is well combined, we'll mix the catfish with this. And I have a little trick for that. Now, a good little trick for the catfish with this is do it like you would do fried chicken. Use a bag. You can use a paper bag, plastic bag. Doesn't really matter as long as it's big enough to hold it. I have one here from the store. Start by putting some of the breading in the bottom. And then just start adding your catfish just as if it were a bowl. You just want to layer the catfish in. Doesn't have to be perfect. This just makes it a little easier to get it all in and get a better coating on it. Just pour all your breading on in there. Once you have everything in, you can just pick up your bag. Make sure you have plenty of air in there. That's what's going to allow the catfish and the breading to move around and get coated evenly. Oh yeah. Looks pretty good. Okay. And what you should end up with is something like this. Now, until frying time comes, the best thing to do is actually leave this catfish in the breading. You can unstack it a little bit, but leave it in the breading, and that will encourage more to stick to it. Now it's time to cook the catfish. When you're cooking your catfish, you want to make sure your oil is at a proper temperature. If it's too cold, all your breading is going to fall off. If it's too hot, you're going to burn it and it won't cook inside. For that, I don't ever use thermometers anymore. You don't really need to. They're good to have in the kitchen, but not really for this. The best way is to use a wooden spoon or a chopstick even, any wooden implement you have, and just put it in the oil. When the oil is at the right temperature, you will have bubbles coming from the end of the spoon. If the bubbles are really slow, then the oil is just warm. This looks pretty good. This is a good frying temperature. So let's go ahead and fry some catfish. Take your pieces one at a time and lay them in. Always lay them in away from yourself so you don't splash yourself with a bunch of hot grease or oil. Give them plenty of space so they don't get overcrowded. And this is definitely one of those times it's good to have cast iron. If you don't have cast iron, just pick your heaviest skillet. That should take a few minutes to cook there. What you're looking for with this is a nice golden brown color. It should be nice and crispy on the outside. You might have a few spots getting a little bit darker, that's okay, as long as you don't have burnt spots. You don't want that. If you start to notice that they're getting too brown on one side, turn them over. This is kind of a deep fry, but it's a shallow deep fry, so you will have a little more browning on the bottom than the top. They've got a little ways to go here. You want to look for the catfish to start to firm up. It won't be super firm, but it's not going to be like this anymore. Just by using your tongs and moving it from time to time, gently so you don't knock off the breading, you can start to see how the flesh firms up. And also you just want to kind of monitor the color. If you're ever not sure, there's nothing wrong with pulling out a nice thick piece and just hacking it. So these are getting close. You'll notice that the smaller pieces will cook a little faster. And here's a good example. This one, where it's touching the bottom, it's fine, it's not burnt. But a little extra browning is not going to hurt it. This should probably take about 3 minutes, depending on the temperature that you have your pan at. And these are almost done now. Another thing you'll notice as your fish is getting closer to done is the sound of the oil. You'll start to hear fewer and fewer bubbles. As it gets closer to being done, there's less water being pushed out of the fish, so the oil isn't talking as much. This also works really well with fried chicken. Another thing to look for is the fish will start to float to the top. Like this little guy here, you can see that he's no longer sitting on the bottom of the pan like he was a minute ago. So let's go ahead, take this out. Your larger pieces will take a little longer. And they are about done as well. All right. That's the catfish. Now when you make your catfish, if you have a lot of debris left, it's a good idea to skim some of that off, because what will happen is that'll go on your Hushpuppies, which you're going to cook in the same oil. The more you get off, the better. If you can find a cornmeal that's more finely ground than this one, you'll have less of this. You can see it's the big pieces that fall off because they just won't stick. In fact, if you have really good fine cornmeal, you don't need flour at all. You can use just the cornmeal. Once you've cleaned your oil, you can go ahead and move on to the Hushpuppies. The batter by now should have thickened up a bit. It's a bit thicker than it was earlier, so it'll hold together nicely in the oil. A good trick for this, after you get your first one in there, get your spoon a little greasy there. And that'll help the batter fall off each time. Okay, that's good. You'll want to watch these, make sure they don't get too brown. Turn them over. This is something also people used to call an extender for their meal, basically. You would take the same pan that you cooked the main dish in, and you'd cook something else in it. Then after that, you'd often make, not for catfish, but you'd often make gravy in the same pan. So then you end up with 3 things out of one pan. And they all taste like the main dish. When these are done, they should be a nice deep golden brown, and they should be really light. A lot of times you'll get hush puppies in a restaurant and they're not very light. It's because their batter was too thick. As they get done, just pull them on out. And we have our catfish and hush puppies finished. It's a good way to feed a crowd of people for not too much money. Try it yourself and enjoy.
So it's not aquaculture, so it's not just fish farming. When you add the two together, that's when you get magic. And the magic is it replicates a symbiotic relationship in nature.